Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Oxford City Council Cabinet on the 18th of June from a relatively cool room in the Town Hall. So welcome one and all. First item on the agenda is declarations of interest. Are there any that we need to hear? Not seeing any. The other item, which actually doesn't seem to be on the agenda, is apologies. But so we officially have to record apologies from Councillor Turner, but as people will be able to see, he is actually joining us online. It's just that regulations have not yet quite caught up. So that is why we have to officially record apologies. We have no notified addresses and questions by members of the public. We have no council addresses of any item for decision on the Cabinet agenda or neighbourhood issues, but we do have reports from the Scrutiny Committee. So welcome, Alex, to your first meeting, I think, as Chair of Scrutiny. So congratulations on the new role, and over to you.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's nice to be here. So the Scrutiny Committee met on the 10th of June and we considered the Leisure Investment Plan and Annual Service Plan, the Local Plan 2042 Regulation 16 Consultation Document, and the Annual Complaint and Service Improvement Report. And from those items, we put forward 5 recommendations. Just to give a little bit of a summary, on the Leisure Investment Programme update and the More Leisure Annual Service Plan, one of the key points of clarification sought by the Scrutiny Committee was around the 2-year usage targets. So there's a lot of discussion around some of the data loss during the transfer, particularly around online memberships, and how this was going to be quantified when looking at the year 2 targets. And this resulted in the first of the 2 recommendations, which was around improving the accuracy of data on usage growth within the performance indicators, basically encouraging the use of a best estimate to allow us to quantify the missing visits to make the data more robust. Secondly, there was some discussion around other activities that might help to increase the popularity and usage of leisure services, such as paddle or pickleball. We also made discussions around sort of the use of creches and provision of healthy and sustainable foods in the cafes. So there's sort of a concern there around accessibility, not to the point of formal recommendation, but it was something we wanted to, obviously, well, we're not, glad to see reflected and something we were keen to see continue. The last point, which resulted in the second recommendation, was acknowledgement of the sophisticated life-saving technology through the use of LinkSight. But the committee was keen to get some assurances around the status of a contract between Serco and LinkSight, and if there was such a contract, to hear a bit more about basically what processes were in place for ascertaining the human rights and ethical procurement status of LinkSight. And particularly, Scrutiny was keen to put forward a recommendation for publication and transparency around this, so that members of the public in the city can see that our commitments around procurement are following through to the service function. Moving on to the local plan 2042, we had discussions partly around bike parking standards. There was a general view in the Scrutiny Committee that we could be more ambitious, and one of our recommendations was to review this with a more ambitious sort of policy. We also had discussion around self-build policies that didn't result in a formal recommendation, but just a discussion around the deadline set. One of the other things where there was a very clear and unified desire was to basically encourage the strengthening of the wording in HD8 and HD9 to support more densification within the city. So just a strengthening of the wording within the local plan. And moving on to the last item, we had discussion of the annual complaint handling and service improvement report. And basically here, the main item picked up by the Scrutiny Committee was a desire for more benchmarking. So basically to see other local housing providers used as a benchmark to enable us to undertake a more comparative sort of analysis of where the council is doing, or how the council is doing in terms of its performance as a landlord. So there was 5 recommendations in total. Hopefully that's a useful summary for colleagues.
Thank you very much, Alex. Very helpful. I'm now going to call on Councillor Choe, Monkonge, Alex Hollingsworth and Linda Smith to respond if they wish. So in that order. So Choe, over to you first.
Thank you. The first recommendation we actually agreed in part just because the annual service plan will be reviewed monthly by officers and more leisure. So we felt that in the year's time, we'll have the full figures that will show the full picture. As I alluded to during the scrutiny, we said the first year is actually the best year. That's when we're starting to get the correct benchmark figures. So as we go, figures will start improving. Second year, third year, until 10th year, we know the true picture and we'll be able to measure the performance. On the second recommendation, we fully accepted the recommendation. We have gone further to explain what SECO goes through in terms of the procurement. Hopefully, the details in the report explains the code of conduct and all their procurement strategies. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Choe. Alex.
Yeah, it was very interesting discussion. It's an extremely large document, obviously 1,000 pages, and of course the technical problems which hit scrutiny more than anyone meant it's very difficult for them to immerse themselves. So the feedback in the comments is reflecting of probably our ability as the cabinet members, the officers, to have read the documents in rather more detail than scrutiny had been able to. It was nothing to do with nothing that was their fault, just it was what it was. So on the cycle parking issue, cycle parking standards are the ones from Oxfordshire County Council. They recommend them, and so that's what's there. And as the feedback makes clear, we'll be reviewing whether we can go higher than the recommendation from the Transport Authority on that. Is that going to be possible? And it'd be interesting to weigh that up along with the comments from the public broadly. On the densification thing, I just wanted to read, just so that it's on the record, what policy HD8 currently says, because it explains why we've said we think the policy wording is fine, it's the wording round it. So, for example, policy HD8 includes in it, proposals should demonstrate that the built form maximises density. I'm not sure how you can change that to make it even more obvious that density is an issue. What we do need to do is to make sure that the text round the policies is, I suppose, shorter, sharper, and to the point. That was something that was raised in scrutiny. Scrutiny were very supportive of exactly this policy. I think they're absolutely right. I agree with them fundamentally on this. And so it'll be work that officers and I will be doing while the Regulation 18 consultation is underway, to make sure that the text surrounding the policies, the eventual policies that go into the Regulation 19, would just make it really make it jump out. The things like this are in here so that everyone is aware of it. But it was really good that scrutiny as a whole, I mean, I didn't see any dissent from anybody from all political backgrounds, as it were, that felt that maximising densification in all parts of the city where it's possible, and that includes residential areas as well as district centres and the city centre. So that was really positive, and yeah, really nice to see.
Thanks very much, Alex. Linda.
Sorry, nothing to add. I think it's very straightforward acceptance of the recommendation.
Fine, thank you very much. Right, in which case, Alex, you're very welcome to stay for the meeting or to leave as you prefer. So, but thank you very much for your scrutiny report. We now move on to the substantive items on the agenda, and the first is Leisure Investment Programme update and the More Leisure Service annual plan. So I've got James and I think Hagan's online. Yep. So James is just moving to the hot spot where he gets to address us through a microphone. And Choe, over to you collectively.
Thank you very much. The report in front of you is a report that we agreed at the cabinet meeting last year to be bringing the service plan and to see how More Leisure is performing. It's critical that the cabinet scrutinize what the More Leisure is doing with our leisure services. As you can see in the report, there are a lot of good things. For example, we had for the first time the on-time opening of the Expo. We have the increase in numbers, for example, for the streaming lessons, and we are doing so great to the community with the in-kind money that the did promise. We also look at the what we have done. Actually, if you look at the slides, the improvement from how they picked it up to where they are now, I would say we have been successful so far. Probably we can, and More Leisure can do better with the communication just to highlight what achievement that they have done. I do apologize. In this report on ModGov, doesn't contain the information about the crash. Otherwise, it isn't there. We have committed. These discussions are still ongoing between the council and More Leisure, how we are going to implement it. So that the actual plan will be in the service plan for 2026 to 2027. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey. James Hagan, would you like to make any further comments and introduction?
Yeah, thank you, and good evening, everyone. So yeah, I think as Chewie said, there's been a lot of success over the last year. You know, compared to the other operator, we've really seen some positive improvements. We had a little bit of a challenging start, particularly with transfer of data. So there's been some lessons learned, but overall, we're confident everything's kind of up and running and as it should be now. We've seen a real transformation of the centres. There's still a long way to go, but some really good news stories and some, you know, the facilities are on the up, slowly but surely, and you know, there's more to come this year. Chewie alluded to the community fund, so that's the in-kind community fund. That's part of the contract, so it's 0.8% of income for community use. We've now made that live, so people can start applying to it. It's funding programs such as the Homeless Pathway membership scheme, and yeah, there's lots of good things happening, and lots more to follow in the months ahead.
Thanks very much, James. Hagan, did you want to add anything?
Just very quickly, in relation to the contract, yes, I mean, there's been some really good successes. I'll just pick out a couple. So Leeds Youth Hub is something to be really excited about, obviously moving forward. Hinksey Pool, so some really good improvements, and obviously opening, you know, on time in tricky circumstances has been another really sort of good success. The Leeds Soft Play, which has gone in more recently, which opened officially in May. Really good attendances, lots of great feedback, obviously, from communities. But as James and Councillor Makonge say, you know, the work's just starting. You know, there's some areas which obviously we need to pay due diligence to and really keep an eye on. But you know, we have good governance in place and monthly meetings, as well as a myriad of different client functions, such as client audits, you know, external audits, mystery visits, that type of thing, which hopefully should give members some comfort in relation to performance going forward.
Thanks very much, Hagan. Linda.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, first of all, I'd like to say, I mean, it's disappointing that no one from Serco could come this evening. I know that they were at scrutiny, but this is the decision-making meeting. And as cabinet members, we have the benefit of, you know, being able to talk to you and other officers, you know, relatively easily whenever we like. But I don't think it's much to expect for us to have the chance to speak to Serco directly once a year. So the point I wanted to add is about the creche and at the Leeds Leisure Centre, and I appreciate the supplement, which isn't part of the papers, but I guess we are agreeing anyway this evening. Might be worth just saying something about that so we can get that minuted, as seeing as it isn't part of the agenda pack. So, you know, but I just wanted to underline the importance of having childcare as part of our leisure officer, you know, and how important it is in terms of making us leisure offer genuinely inclusive and accessible, and how important it is to, you know, what we're trying to do to encourage young families to use the centres. Pre-COVID in 2019, there was a very well-established, well-used creche at the Lees Leisure Centre that had been there for a number of years, staffed mainly by local women who were doing a brilliant job, and, you know, it was a really valued part of the community and part of the leisure centre. It closed during COVID and has never been reopened. We also, in 2019, we'd worked hard as a council to establish a pop-up childcare facility at the Ferry Centre, again, which was, you know, starting to gain popularity. Again, that closed during COVID, and at the moment we don't have any childcare in any of our leisure facilities, and I'm ashamed of that, to be honest. So, I mean, it's disappointing that it wasn't considered as part of the contract with Serco in the first place, but I wanted to underline how important, you know, I think fellow cabinet members would agree with me, you know, we consider it to be. But having said that, I don't expect it to come with a huge price tag for the council. I'd expect Serco to be able to know what they're doing to manage it professionally, you know, to make sure it's well utilised. Obviously, there'll be a contribution from its users towards the costs of using it. But I'd also expect them to be able to use it to really drive memberships and increase utilisation of the centres, and attract people who at the moment, you know, are perhaps paying £150 a month plus to go to David Lloyd, you know, which has childcare facilities, or who are staying at home because they can't afford, you know, that cost. Yeah, so, but yeah, it would be really useful to hear more about the creche. I mean, I did read the what was in the supplement that we haven't got with us this evening. But I didn't feel it really went far enough in terms of talking about its feasibility, and, you know, looking to get something up and running next year. I'd like to know that the council and Serco are working really hard to get it up and running as soon as possible. Thank you.
James, are you able to respond to that? Oh, sorry, Joey, I'll take you first, sorry.
Thank you so much. First of all, we have to look at the bigger picture as a whole. We should appreciate as a council that we have secured an investment. No of our leisure services has been closed. We continue receiving our management fees. We still keep our concession services and free swimming. Why the crash was closed, and this is on record, because it wasn't viable. Fusion wouldn't manage it. So I do apologize for the fact that it wasn't included in the contract. Probably that was just a foresight. I've assured my cabinet member that I've dealt with, and it is on record both in our group discussion and also on the addendum that unfortunately isn't included in this. Now, when it comes to the understanding of the facts, we must know that there should be, first of all, a business case for it. And actually, the officers and More Leisure are discussing, and I can assure you that More Leisure are on board with the crash, and there's a provision in the Lees Centre. Now, what is it going to look like? This is the discussion that officers now will continue. That's why it will be in the 2026 to 2027 annual plan, because we must look at things like how many days is it going to be operating. We know the initial capital cost is about 50,000 K. As you know, with the budgeting, it's just a plan. It's not a fact, so it can even go up or down. We'll also look at things like the ongoing revenue cost. What does it entail? So those are the facts at the moment that we are looking on. I've assured you, and it will be minuted, that we'll look at that. Probably officers would want to add more.
Thanks very much, Joey. James, did you want to add anything in terms of discussions with More Leisure?
Yeah, thank you very much, councillors. So yeah, just to add really, it is in the addendum. I appreciate it's not in the printed pack, but it is there. So there is the commitment from officers and More Leisure to explore the viability for next year. I appreciate you're after something a bit stronger, but there is that commitment there. Totally agree with the importance of childcare. You know, this contract is about more than opening doors and, you know, people going to the gym and going for a swim. It's about, you know, really looking at things differently, bringing in the health system and making the centres more accessible. So that clearly is really important. There is, I just wanted to raise that there is a small childcare provision at the moment. So Marta Bagela, who is otherwise known as Be Empowered, so she's a local resident and has a local community interest company. She does run stay and play sessions at the Leas on a weekly basis, and they're really successful. We also support them through the community fund, so we cover the hall hire. So that's just wanted to flag that. Appreciate it's not a creche, but there is that small provision there, which we do support. We definitely want to look into different options. As Chue alluded to, you know, the initial options are coming out quite expensive. But I think you're right. We need to look at potential, you know, working with community, you know, people within the community. If we've done that before, perhaps that's something we can look at again. And that might come out to be, you know, a better solution. I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, James. Nigel.
Yeah, thank you very much for the report. And you're quite right, Chloe, there's an awful lot to be proud of here. As a regular user of Hinksey Outdoor Pool and also Ferry, I have noticed a substantial change in the attitude of the people running it. And it's just frankly a much more pleasant experience. However, there are two areas I have some concerns about. One is the resilience around lifeguards. I mean, all leisure facilities, I suspect, in the UK have this issue. The previous incumbents who were running it, Fusion, had that issue. I wonder what level of assurance you've got as we come into the summer that, given there's going to be a lot of usage now, that they're going to be able to, this week, for instance, they had to close quite abruptly because they didn't have a lifeguard there. Well, I saw it with my own eyes. The second issue is around catering. I've got slightly confused about whether this was an outsourced contract, which then became in-house. But as a result, all I can tell you is the catering is not very evident. I mean, the facilities have been upgraded in both the sites that I regularly visit, but there seemed to be no staff to actually provide any food and drink. So there's still an issue here, I think, in the reliability of that. And maybe you'd like to comment on that and whether that's coming up in your monthly conversations with More.
Thanks, Nigel. I'm just going to take Lubna as well, and then you can come back to both together. If that's okay, James. Lubna.
Hello. I'm really grateful for this report to come forward, and I'm really genuinely appreciative of all the work that everyone has done to get this far. Totally. We're just trying to emphasize that having a creche is a lifeline for a lot of women. They want to go to the women only swim. They want somewhere. And I've raised this so many times and again, even when I was in scrutiny, is that they need somewhere to, you know, perhaps if they can't take the child in with them, to have their time in the pool. And so, for example, like when you've got the women's session only 12 till 1, which has been really popular, and lots of different groups are asking for the same sort of times. And I know that you've worked really hard on that. But going forward, we need that creche facility. And obviously, you know, what Marta does is excellent, but that's more of a stay and play and not a creche facility. And genuinely, Joey, really grateful for everything that you've taken on this. The other thing I was going to mention is that I'm really happy with the soft play, and I'm really looking forward to the Leas Youth Hub coming into play. So I'm really excited to be working on with that with you guys. There was one more thing. Oh yeah, that's it. You know the Hinksey, is it Hinksey or Ferry? Yeah, the indoor one. Gym.
Ferry.
Yeah, Ferry. You know that gym. Sorry, I'm a bit slow because I'm a bit under the weather because of the sun. Yeah, it's fantastic equipment in there on the gym, but we need more of that. We've only got 3 machines that are eGym ones in the Blackbird Leys ones, and I need you to question it. Why is it that we've only got 3? You know, that gym in Blackbird Leys is packed out in the evenings, especially, and in the mornings, and we need more. You know, we need to be having that balance and asking the company if they can ensure that there's more machines on that. Thank you.
James.
Thank you very much, councillors. So just to respond to Councillor Chapman's point, so lifeguards, yeah, that's a clear industry issue. So a few points on that. So firstly, for the last couple of years now, collectively, we've been working with SimSpa. So that's a Chartered Institute for the Management of Sports and Physical Activity, I think. So they're a national governing body around, sports and leisure. We're working with them to try and create leisure as a career option, so trying to rebrand that. So, leisure's typically attracts kind of younger people who just kind of, are there for a little bit and don't really see it as a career option. So we're working with that national body who are working, they've got a local skills board to try and make leisure more attractive. Secondly, so More Leisure are working with a recruitment agency, so a specialist lifeguard recruitment agency, just to try and bring more people in. And you're absolutely right. It is so important, particularly with Hinksey as the season, as the weather gets better and sessions extend, and particularly at weekends when bookings go astronomical, we want to get more lifeguards so you can expand the numbers and get more people in. It makes sense. So it's really important and very much high on the radar. In terms of catering, so at Ferry and Hinksey, previously, so last year, the catering at Hinksey was outsourced with Vinny. That's since that kind of has finished. So at Hinksey, it's now insourced. So it's being run directly by More Leisure, so More Leisure staff. I agree. At the moment, it kind of doesn't look that inspiring. So hopefully by the end of this week, they will have a couple of vans installed on site. So we'll have a kind of an ice cream van and a sort of burger barbecue van, which will hopefully kind of create a bit of a buzz and be a bit more interesting, because currently it's kind of plain tables and that's a bit of a temporary solution. So they're operating out of the old kiosk. That's not the kind of end point for that. So hopefully, literally in the next few days, people should start to notice more of a buzz and more activity around that kind of food offer. At Ferry, they attempted to kind of reopen a cafe offer. I think the difficulty is where it's based. You're off Summertown's High Street, and there are a ton of cafe options. So they've not found it's kind of successful to run at that site. They need to do a bit of work to tidy it up because it doesn't look great at the moment. So they'll probably revert back to a kind of a grab and go offer. So there won't be someone kind of there and it won't be that kind of cafe, but there will be something so it kind of fills the space and looks nice, because that's important actually, how things appear. So those are those points. I hope that answers those queries. And then on to Councillor Arshad. So yeah, completely agree, with your points about the creche. It is really important and clearly tying in with those female sessions as well. So that's very important, aligning those times. With the soft play and Leys Youth Hub, we're equally excited. I guess just a couple of points on those. So the soft play, so our active communities officer, so who's newly in post with More Leisure, who's all about kind of community development. He's looking at kind of improving daytime access. So it's currently very much in progress, but they're looking at maybe changing the prices to make it more attractive to come during the daytime. So that also makes it more accessible. And there are also SEN, so sessions for people, sort of quieter sessions for people and families that might need that. That's also at the ice rink as a side note, which is something that Adam, our active communities person, has implemented. So it's really good to have him with us. In terms of the gym equipment, so yeah, totally agree that the equipment is fantastic. And to pick up the point about the e-gym at the Leys, there are 3 items of e-gym, whereas at Ferry, I think you've got 8. So the reason behind that is actually e-gym is generally a bit more targeted to a kind of an older demographic. So when More were planning all of this, they felt that Summertown had a slightly older demographic, whereas the Leas is much younger. So they felt it made more sense to focus the e-gym at Ferry. So that's kind of the reason behind that. But actually, I know the e-gym's really lovely. The other kit that's not e-gym is equally lovely. It just doesn't have the sort of jazzy screen, but it's all top of the range kits, and we should be really proud that we've got really high spec equipment actually.
Joe.
Yes, just to add on the catering, I was just thinking, obviously I've been thinking about this a lot, doing some benchmarking to just see how our neighboring leisure centers do it, if it is linked with, if we are isolated or just linked with customer behavior. We also know that More Leisure provides services, for example, in Birmingham, so we might also look how the catering services there to just understand a little bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. And Hagan.
Yeah, just picking up on a couple of points. So yeah, absolutely understand in relation to lifeguards. Yeah, we are doing a lot of work nationally, both with CLOA, Chief Leisure Officers Association, and CIMSPA, Chartered Institute of Management of Sport and Physical Activity, but also very much locally as well. So we are getting into schools, local schools, both secondaries, and also trying to do some drowning prevention stuff, within primaries as well. So that work's really, really important that we're reaching the right communities and recognising that we've got some really good outlets, particularly through our locality managers and connections into different community groups. So that's something which locally is really, really important. On the food offer, yep, absolutely understood. There is more work to be done in relation to food. We've been working very well with the health system, so very much aligned with public health. We've worked with Lord Krebs, who used to be chair of the Food Standards Agency, particularly around Ferry, trying to make things more healthy. More work to be done. But improving, the diverse and different offer, which will hopefully have a balance in between healthy options, but also enabling catering to be sustainable in the longer term, but recognise more work to be done.
Well, thank you very much. I think fundamentally, we all would like to recognise the fact that there has been a really big improvement in our leisure centres, and there's in all sorts of ways, new equipment, better facilities, better cared for, more staff, a really serious effort to try and recruit lifeguards in the face of a national problem. It's really good to hear about the innovative work that's being done on that by yourselves alongside More Leisure. Personally, I was really, really delighted with the soft play. I just think that's something that's been missing from the city for a very long time, and I think it's fantastic. So I think that's really something to be proud of. Clearly, there are still things that we can improve. It would be surprising if there weren't, but thank you for the work that you're doing on that as well. I think we are probably ready to move to the recommendations.
Susan?
Oh, sorry, Ed.
His hand up.
Did you have your hand up? I'm so sorry. You're invisible, so your hand is invisible on the screen. So apologies. Do speak.
But bless you, I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, I was waiting patiently. I mean, I totally concur, Susan, with what you and colleagues have said. This is light and day away from where we were a year ago with our previous provider. Much better, definitely a different feel. I also get the sense from the colleagues that work in leisure centres, much more positive environment for them, really big progress. And I think we need to hold on to and celebrate that. And the soft play is a great example as well. I do understand colleagues' frustration about the creation. I would just say, I think we as councillors need to own that. At the end of the day, it was us as a cabinet collectively that agreed on what we didn't put in there. And, it sounds like we're going to do our level best to try and rectify that. But I think it's important, that we acknowledge that's something which we have owned throughout as a process. There were two other specific points I was keen to mention. One, it hasn't come up yet, but of course the county council is consulting on some unwelcome transport policy changes. And I think it'll be important that more leisure, where there'll be particular impacts on their users, like the ice rink, take the opportunity to raise the visibility of the consultation. And the other thing was just, if I'm honest, I think Hinksey's got, again, way better. The paintwork's, much more colourful, it's cleaner, all the rest of it. The ambition for next year in the documents is a little bit understated. And I would encourage the provider to work with the Very Active Users Group and just think about different opportunities that might exist there beyond the rather limited scope of ambition for next year. Those were my points.
Thanks very much, Ed, and sorry about missing you. I will try and keep a closer eye now, because it was just visible underneath the sort of the top of the screen. So apologies for that. Yes, so what I was about to say was that I think we're probably ready to move to the recommendations, and noting that there is also work going on to try and reinstate a crash. Thank you for that work, which I think you've heard is a very strong case being made for. With that in mind, can we then move to the recommendations as set out in the report, which is to approve the Leisure Annual Service Plan for 2025 to 26? Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you very much, James and Hagan, for all your work. So really appreciated. Excellent. We are now on to the Oxford Local Plan, all 1,000 or something pages of it, which fortunately we haven't printed out. To the two of you who've been working and slaving away on this, thank you very much. So we've got Sarah Harrison and Rachel Williams, and also Alex. So I'll start with Alex, and then
I will start. Sarah and Rachel will go through the sort of details of the process we're going to go through. So I just thought I'd just cover what we're trying to do with a local plan. I was trying to think of a good way of talking about local plans, and I think many of us, I certainly get quite a lot of my constituents, I think many of us probably will, who are very keen on talking about donut economics. Kate Rawworth, who is actually things. It's a really interesting and exciting piece of economic analysis, and lots of people, not Kate Rawworth, but lots of people who read it like half of it, but not the other half, and they ignore it. And what it does, it creates a donut, and it has an ecological ceiling, which talks about where we are in danger of ecological harms, I think is probably the right word. And there's lots of interest in that. What there isn't interest in, and many people I've heard it address me about it, is the social foundation half of her thing, and what that contains and what that means in a place like Oxford. And what it particularly means in a place like Oxford is we are a successful city in terms of our heritage. Our environment's pretty good. We saw some good statistics on that. Our economy is thriving. What we do not have is the housing. What we do not have is ordinary, decent, affordable housing for ordinary people in this city, anywhere near what we would call a decent quantity of affordable housing. And I think it's an interesting point just to touch on the context of this, looking at England as a country. We're probably about 4 million short of the number of homes we should have built over a long period. That's an extraordinarily large number. A very large proportion of those will be affordable housing units, ordinary, decent, affordable housing units. Last year, there was a report done as a lobbying thing for the government, to the government, which identified 8.5 million people in England unable to live in a decent home that they need. 8.5 million. 2 million of those are children. We've talked rightly about the importance of supporting people with children at the leisure centre, we also need to talk about the right of families with children or without to have a decent home they can afford and build a life around. So with that, it's really important to understand the context of this local plan and the policies that we're consulting on and why we're consulting on them. We will be consulting on our policies to protect and enhance our environment, quite rightly so. We will also be consulting on protecting and enhancing our heritage. There are Dreaming Spires in Oxford. They're quite famous. They're very worthy of protecting. But we also need to have in a local plan jobs, opportunities, chance for a job, chance for a career, chance to set your business up, somewhere to set your business up, making sure there are places for jobs, but in particular, looking for homes. And that is the most important focus of this. And taken all together, whether you're one of these people who likes thinking about donut economics, or I tend to go for a rather more simplistic thing, which is I like to think about equality as what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is to create equal opportunities, whether they're commercial opportunities, job opportunities, career opportunities, opportunities to live in a good environment and a beautiful heritage, but most of all, live in a home. And that's what this local plan is about.
Thanks very much, Alex. Sarah, Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth gave a lovely introduction to the plan, and now I've got some boring process things. So this thing that's before you is the Regulation 18 consultation. That's the technical name for it. It's the first statutory stage of consultation that we have to do in the local plan process. We have already done early consultation to get a feel for the things that are important to people. And as well as that, we've got the withdrawn Local Plan 2040, which had a lot of work go into it. So we feel we're in a good position to know what's needed and what people want to see, what's important, as well as building on the evidence work with updated evidence to feed into this. So for this Regulation 18 stage, we've been able to present a suite of draft policies to people. We don't think we need to go right back to the beginning. So it's a bit further forward than we sometimes are at Regulation 18. We are also clear that there are options behind all of those draft policies, which we've selected from, and we've explained why we've selected what we have. But it gives people in the consultation an opportunity to see that there are other things that we could do. And some bits are a bit less developed. For example, we need to look at Greenbelt. That's a clear direction from national government. And some of that work will come after this Regulation 18 stage, as we go into the next stage, which is Regulation 19. So the next stage of consultation is due to be towards the end of this year, and that will be on a draft plan, the draft plan that we want to submit to the government for independent examination. So this consultation is important in feeding into that draft plan and guiding what we do with that plan. But because we've got so far in this stage, we can move very quickly. So that means that we'll be able to hopefully submit the plan to the government in April next year. After that, the timing is in the hands of the Planning Inspectorate, but our aim is to have it adopted by March 27.
Thank you very much. It's really helpful outline. Did you want to add anything, Rachel? No. Okay. Questions, comments? Lubna.
So when does the consultation come out for this?
Yeah, I didn't say that, did I? Sorry. 27th, so Friday week
7th of
until June, until
right.
the 8th of August.
Thank you. Can I have a follow-on
Yes, sorry,
question,
yes.
Chair?
No, go for it.
So what kind of things are you expecting from the local residents? Do you have, I know that's the whole point of doing a consultation, but do you have, with your guidance, what kind of things you're expecting in terms of being in the local plan, for example?
Yes, obviously this is a very long document and people won't have the time or resources to go through the whole thing unless they're particularly interested. So we've got different ways of reaching different people. We've put together a leaflet which we're intending to do door to door, which has just picked out some of the key things that we want to ask people and find out about. So that's much more digestible and gives people a chance just to answer some key questions. But there is also going to be online a whole massive consultation for people who do want to look in more detail. And we'll be running some events as well so that we can just talk to people face to face.
Thanks very much. It's a really helpful explanation for, yes, how we do engage with people on what is a very complex document and a very long document. So thank you for that. I'm conscious of the fact that we will probably have quite a lengthy debate about the local plan, I suspect, at full council. So I'm not particularly inclined, I suspect, to have a lengthy debate at Cabinet when this is a document that we are supportive of, and I think Alex outlined very well at the start why we are very supportive of it. Certainly, housing remains the biggest crisis facing our city, and this is a plan that delivers housing to the best of our ability in our city, and I think that is fundamentally a really important thing that we need to do. So unless anyone has anything else they wish to add, I am looking around and not seeing it. I suggest, yes, just check Ed. No, that's okay. We should move to the recommendations, which are to approve the first draft for public consultation and authorise the Director of Planning and Regulation to make any necessary minor editorial corrections to the document before it goes out to consultation. Everyone happy with that? Thank you very much. And thank you very much for what I know is a huge, huge amount of work. So please pass on our thanks to the whole team. So thank you. Right, we are now on to the annual complaint performance and service improvement report. And I think we have Kat and Bill for this item. And I think, Linda, you were going to respond on behalf of the council once Kat and Bill have introduced the report. So Kat, over to you.
Thank you. So this is a report that we produce annually. It's a requirement from the Housing Ombudsman, and it covers our complaint performance for the last financial year, as well as our service improvement actions. One of the other requirements from the Ombudsman, it's not just that we publish this report, which is designed to provide the information to residents, but also that we have a response alongside it, which would, in our case, is from Cabinet. So that's basically why we're presenting it this evening. As you can see from the main report, which is in the appendix, it's been a tricky year. We had some issues that prevented us from responding to a lot of complaints within the target timescales, and that's all included in the report. We've taken measures now to ensure that we are more resilient in future. So things like staff absence was a big factor for us, roles being vacant. So we've taken steps. The team is now bigger. It's myself and 2 officers, but we're also working more closely with the other complaints hubs within the council to provide sort of backup for each other so that there is a continuity of service. And yeah, that's the report for this year. There was some improvements that we made throughout the year, both in how we handle complaints and working in conjunction with service areas on things that we identified as part of the outcome of complaints. And again, those are listed in the Appendix 1 report.
Thanks very much, Kat. Bill, did you want to add anything?
Only just to add that Kat did mention that we had a period where it was just Kat alone, where a member of staff had been absent for a long time and then put in their notice. And by the time we were able to recruit, the backlog situation had presented itself. And Kat and colleagues have worked admirably to recover that situation. And notwithstanding the events of recent days, we expect that that we will be fully up to speed with responding to complaints by the beginning of July, I believe. Kat? Yeah. So, which is good news. We've now got, as Kat said, a team of 3, as well as support from the other service areas.
Thanks, Bill, and thank you, Kat. Sounds like you had a very tricky job there. So thank you. And Linda, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, as Kat said, we are required to formally publish a response to the complaints handling report. So I thought it'd be useful just to take us through that, because that is also what we'll be agreeing this evening. As a Cabinet, we once again welcome the publication of this report as part of our commitment to transparency and our determination to ensure the views of citizens help shape our services. The customer care and complaints team within landlord services has faced capacity problems this year, resulting in the published figures around response times for complaints. We're pleased to note that action has already been taken to increase staff in this area and work is being closely monitored. We expect to see a marked improvement in this area as we progress into next year, alongside an increase in customer satisfaction with our handling of complaints. We also note the service improvements that have been made throughout the council and by our contractor ODS, and we'll be interested to see the longer term impact of these on the complaints figures for next year. The Housing Ombudsman determinations are an interesting addition to this year's report, as there were none for last year other than the complaints handling failure order that the council regrettably received. Whilst we would like to see a mutually agreed resolution to complaints as early as possible within the process without Ombudsman intervention, these determinations provide a valuable external review of our complaints service and inform us as to whether the council is meeting the Housing Ombudsman's expectations. This year's report includes some of the further insight into the types of complaints received and the root causes that we requested last year. We expect this to continue and for opportunities for deeper analysis to be explored. Our residents are at the heart of our services, and the plans to expand their involvement in the complaints service and seek their feedback will be a welcome step towards greater transparency, accountability and co-regulation. Although parts of this report are not positive, such as the percentage of complaints responded to within target and the findings of maladministration by the Housing Ombudsman, there has also been positive progress in several areas. We accept the assurances given that steps have been taken to address issues, and we expect to see evidence that these have succeeded by the time the next annual report is produced. We'd like to thank all of those within the council who have assisted with the investigation and resolution of complaints, especially Kat, as well as all of the citizens who have taken the time to raise issues and provide their views. The end.
Thank you very much, Linda. Any questions or comments? Well, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to the complaints team and particularly Kat. Just following on from that, it clearly has been a difficult year and it is very good to hear of the improvements that have been made and the greater sustainability of the team going forward, both within the team, but also having that mutual agreement with other teams across the council. I think that sounds like a very sensible way forward. And I think it is always really important that we learn from any complaints. It's also important we learn from positive feedback as well, I should add, which people are often less anxious to tell us about. But it is important because that is how we improve our services, is by getting that customer feedback. So it probably would be not quite right to say we welcome complaints exactly, but I think they are really an important learning tool for the council, and so we should and do welcome reports like this, because then we are able to implement the learning from them. If there are no other questions or comments, then I suggest that we move to the recommendations, which are to agree the content of the report and to provide the formal response, which has just been read out by Councillor Lynn Smith. And is everyone happy to agree those?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Kat and Bill. Right, we are now on to item 9, which is the disposal of city centre commercial property. And we've got Emma and Alex online, I think, for this one. Is that right? Yes, I can see you both there. And this is also Ed's report. So Ed, do you want to start off?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. It's a straightforward report. I think we keep tabs on our commercial portfolio. We want it to be best used. Sometimes there are properties which are really quite complicated to use, and these are examples. And so, unfortunately, they haven't been in use in very recent times. And there are just also some restrictions on what exactly we as the council can do and what areas of activity we can be involved in. And they are commercially held properties. What we need to income, our officers then market properties professionally and transparently, and that process has been gone through. The details are in the confidential appendix, and we can go into confidential session if we need, but I can wholeheartedly emphasise to Cabinet colleagues that I think excellent work has been done and the proposal will be financially beneficial. And of course, we will retain the long leasehold interest in the properties as well. So beneficial financially, but we do retain the interest. And so I'd like to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Ed. I'm just going to check that no one wants to move us into confidential session. No. Okay, that's good. So Emma and Alex, did either of you want to add anything?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
No, just one clarification point. So we will retain the freehold title of these properties, but it's long leaseholds that will be disposing of. So which is detailed in the report. So
sorry, I got my words all mangled. Blame the weather. Blame the weather. And Susan, apologies as well. I may take my leave after this item if that's all right.
That's fine, Ed. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a comment, and it's just to be clear, I'm ward councillor for this area as well as cabinet member. I'm just really pleased to see these properties. They have, because of a complex series of I suppose legal issues to do with the nature of the agreements which are in place around them. They've been sitting empty and unused for far too long. So it's a real pleasure to see the effort that's been made to bring them back into use. So very much approve, and is a really positive outcome for for the buildings as well as the council.
I quite agree. I don't feel there's any need to have a lengthy discussion on this. So unless anyone's got any further comments, not seeing any, or questions, not seeing any, let's move to the recommendations, which are to approve the long leasehold disposal and to delegate the relevant authority to the relevant people to basically carry out the decision, to carry out the disposal. Everyone happy with the recommendations?
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. And Ed, we will say goodbye to you and let you get on your way. And thank you very much, Emma and Alex. So excellent. We are now on to item, slightly lost track of what item number it is. It's item 10, which is to adopt the revised community infrastructure levy. And we've got Alex and Lorraine for this one. So Alex, over to you. Oh, and back again, glutton for punishment. We've got Rachel as well. So over to you, Alex.
Right, I'll be very brief on this one, no speechification. It is a proposed change to our SIL charging schedule. It's one that's been through the appropriate process of consultation hearings. The change is set out in Appendix 1. The comment is that there's no changes proposed to say the shops, the housing, whatever it might be. This is a change to the office and research and development businesses. And what it's reflecting is both that demand for those here is because they can make a good return for landowners and developers, and a good enough return means that the sill charge can be a little bit higher without upsetting the viability. And that gives a greater source of revenue to invest in infrastructure, building and repair, which, as we all know, the City of Oxford is in need of.
Thank you very much. Lorraine, did you want to add anything?
Well, not a lot actually. Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. The only thing I was going to say, and the report actually states it anyway, that we were thinking of bringing this in on the 15th of August. But that was it really.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. That's an important detail. So if and when we approve this today, that's when it will go live essentially. Yes, thank you. Rachel, was there anything you wanted to add? No. Okay. Anybody got any questions or comments? No? Well, I think we'd all welcome this because, as has been said, you know, it is important that developers who are making quite a lot of money out of research and development sites in our city at the moment are making the relevant contributions to the infrastructure needed to support those developments. So can we, the recommendations are to adopt the sill charging schedule in line with the recommendation of the independent examiner, to approve the date on which it comes into effect, which we just heard is the 15th of August, and to delegate authority to the Director of Planning to make any necessary further minor changes to the documents, etc. Alex?
Be clear, it's a recommendation to council, not a decision by us.
That's a very good point. Thank you for correcting me there. Yeah, recommendation to council that we adopt all of those relevant points. Everyone happy with that? Thank you very much. Good. So we are now on to, so thank you very much, Lorraine, and thank you, Rachel. We are now on to item 11, which is positive action policy. And we've got Sobia and Melissa, and over to you first of all, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you very much, Susan. This is a policy that's en route to the council meeting in July, because all employment policies need to go there. Positive action policy is basically a subset of our EDI approach, which you've heard me speak about quite a lot in the past. And that is all about tackling underrepresentation from the various groups under the Equality Act in our workforce, particularly ethnic minority groups, and also ethnic minority groups, women and people with disabilities in relation to senior levels of management in the organisation. We are making good progress in these areas, but there's always more to do. One of the tools you have in your armory, as it were, is to use a positive action policy in an intelligent way. So the policy is laid out there for the first time so everybody can see our approach in a transparent way. And secondly, the policy basically covers the areas of recruitment and retention. So it has opportunities for us in terms of targeted training, mentoring, the way we recruit, the way we advertise, the way we interview people. And then once we've also recruited people, it's really vital that we retain and develop them. And therefore you can use positive action. And we do use positive action already in targeted training, particularly in relation to people who may well go into management. And actually there's quite a lot of evidence that we've only had a couple of major schemes, but they have actually helped a number of staff get ready to apply for successfully, actually, roles in senior leadership inside the organisation. So positive action is a very good thing to have to approach these, quite thorny and difficult issues. It's not the same as positive discrimination. People often confuse the two. Positive discrimination is entirely illegal, and this council would never practice it. But positive action is legal, and applied intelligently is very, very helpful. So that's really all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Sobia and Melissa, did either of you want to add?
Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to say that, we bring this to Cabinet for approval because we truly believe that this will help the diversity of the council. And as I'm sure some of you know, that in Oxford we have just over 30% minority ethnic, and at the moment at the council we only have 16.5 that are declaring, so we probably do have more, but we really want to you know, improve that figure and actually, you know, represent the people we serve, and we want to make improvement on that. So that's one of the reasons why we are bringing this to council.
Thanks, Sophia. Melissa?
Yeah, just to add that a lot of the work in this policy is already underway. It's just a way of us sort of having one central point and pulling that together. In terms of its launch, we'll be supporting hiring managers to make sure they understand how to put that policy in action. And there's a lot of other councils that are doing similar things. So we've sort of benchmarked against what other councils are doing, but then applied that to what we need to do in terms of the council.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? There are. Okay. So Alex and then Lubna.
Yeah, I may be misunderstanding or I've missed the words, but in page 992 of the agenda, I'll allow everyone some time to get there. It says consultation and communication. We've consulted with the trade unions, our corporate leadership team and our internal staff networks. And then it has underneath a bullet point which says we will publish the policy. I'm assuming that's not the consultation, that the consultation actually is something different, because it would be slightly odd saying we have consulted and then suggesting we're going to publish it in order to consult it. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding how paragraph 9 works, and then ask, just because I didn't see them and I apologise if I missed them, what were the feedback from trade unions, internal staff networks, that kind of thing?
Shall I? Oh
yeah, go for it, Sophia.
Sorry, I've got a different I've only got my policy in front of me, so I can't refer to the first point. Maybe Melissa might be able to help. But we did at the beginning, when I took this policy to the union, they were very positive about it. Sorry to use that word. But they were really keen, and they liked the fact that it was a simple policy and easy to understand, and we really thought about it. I would say the only thing that they brought up was monitoring, and we understand that. We don't want it to be a policy that just sits there and no one ever refers to it. It's a policy that we need to keep on looking back at and making sure that in the first year that we start looking at we'll be monitoring it as well. So that was that only kind of constructive comment, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Lubna, you had a question as well.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I'm really grateful, Nigel. Over the last sort of over 8 years, you've been working on different aspects and different sides of this, and it's really nice that it's coming into fruition. My question is really, obviously you mentioned retention, and I wanted to ask, do we ask questions at an exit interview? Do we hold that? And has anything come as a result of that? And the second question, if I may, Chair, is you mentioned that we can always be doing more. What is it more that we could be doing?
Well, we do hold exit interviews, and I can confidently say that most of the reasons people give for leaving from groups that are underrepresented in the council workforce are to do with pay and other opportunities and career opportunities, and sometimes family moves and all those things. There's no trend or pattern that people are leaving the organisation because they're dissatisfied about whether they're being treated as an underrepresented group. And in fact, in the staff survey results that have just come out very recently, the sense of belonging that you see in all that data is very, very strong. So I'm pretty confident that actually people leaving are leaving for perfectly decent reasons, which are not as a result of prejudice or discrimination or the sort of things which you might worry about. The second issue is about what more can be done. You just have to carry on patiently working through the application of these policies. There's not a sort of eureka moment, you know, where if you only just touch this wonderful approach, it would all your problems would melt away. You have to be very, very persistent. But the more you do good work in this area, the more the council gets a good reputation for the way it treats its staff, the way it encourages those who are underrepresented, and frankly, holds them close and gives them every opportunity, the more chance we have of attracting more people from those particular groups. And those groups are not just in the managerial elements. You've got apprenticeships in parts of Oxford where we need to build the apprenticeship base, not just for the City Council, but also for ODS. So, those are targeted schemes as well. So I'm a big believer in targeted schemes, both in terms of recruitment and also retention and training. I've always have been and will carry on doing them, in a very positive and strong way, and as much as we can afford, frankly.
Yeah, sure. I'd also like to thank Sobia and Melissa for your work and other members who've helped you along the way. Yeah,
thank you, Libna. I was going to say something very similar, but Joey, I'll take you first.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. I just wanted to point out that, in the world, policies are changing and a lot of multinationals are backing off from the work on this, but we still retain. So that's quite a good sign, stands as who we are as a council. So that's quite a good work. Thank you.
I personally, I'm sure all cabinet colleagues, when presented with some of the very spurious arguments that are made about this by critics of it, are made even more determined, frankly, to fight for it. These are equality of opportunity and giving underrepresented groups the opportunity both to work for the council, to join us, have a good career, to stay with us, seem to be fundamental to what we're about. We want a workforce that represents the city, that serves it well. This is one of the ways in which we can actually help do that. So I say to critics of this, I understand where you're coming from, but we don't agree with you. And we are very proud of what we do here, and we're going to carry on doing it.
Yeah, I think we just, in terms of a sustainable workforce, we want to make sure that our workforce reflects people in the city, because we want it to be people in the city, as well as obviously, the best from everywhere. But I think that the work here is really good. I think it is, as you say, Nigel, it's going to be it's a long process. It's not something that will change overnight, but I was very reassured by the recent internal communications, internal staff survey results, which I think show very well the work that Melissa, you and the whole team have been doing in terms of supporting staff, but also policies like this, which do make people feel properly included. I think, in terms of more that we can do, I think there's always more that we can do in terms of reaching out to communities in Oxford to just really make it clear that everyone in Oxford has a place in the City Council if they want to come and work here. It's really important that people do feel that the City Council represents them, and it looks like it represents them. So I just think it's more of this. It's more of this policy, and keeping going on it. But thank you for all the work. Yeah. So, and absolutely, thank you very much indeed, Sobia, for your work in this and developing this policy. It has been really important. So yeah. Right. I think that just leaves us to approve the policy then. So can we do that? Thank you. We are sending it to council. So just to be clear, thank you both very much. Right, that takes us to the end of the main business. I had to resort to my phone for the minutes because that's not in the paper version. But the minutes are of the meeting on the 9th of April. Can we agree them as an accurate record?
Okay.
Fantastic. In which case, oh, sorry, I skipped over an items raised by cabinet members, which slightly bizarrely appears to be at number 12 on the agenda, but I don't think there were any. So I think that is it. That is the meeting ended. So